Hello, my lovely anatomist and physiologist, Michele Glass here. And I actually wanted to help you map out the ovarian cycle in a little bit of a different way. So remember, we're looking at the development of the gamete through the process of meiosis. And we're also looking at the maturation of the follicle happening inside of the ovary. And so let us begin. I'm going to use a green color to start us out. And we're going to start with the hypothalamus, releasing gonadotropin releasing hormone, which I'm abbreviating here, GnRH. And so this is the start of our ovarian cycle. And our ovarian cycle is going for around approximately 28 days. And so the next thing I want to do is to take an arrow, and I've switched colors here. And we're going to see that the gonadotropin releasing hormone is going to talk to the adenohypophysis, which is, of course, our anterior lobe of the pituitary gland. And we're going to get the release here of FSH, which stands for follicle stimulating hormone. And now we know like the origin of this hormone name because we're stimulating the follicles in the ovary. And so even though this hormone is named for this structure in the ovary, remember, we still see this same hormone in male type bodies. And in that case, it's stimulating the nurse cell, which is sort of the homologue to the follicle cells. When we get this release of follicle stimulating hormone, we're going to see that, let me reference another diagram here that I have. We're going to see that inside the follicle, the primary oocyte gets the signal to complete meiosis 1, forming the secondary oocytes. We'll also see that this release of FSH triggers the maturation of the follicles. So we can say some of those primary follicles are going to mature into secondary follicles. And then we'll see some of those secondary follicles maturing to the tertiary follicle. But ultimately, we only get, I'm going to say, one mature or Graafian follicle. And all of those other tertiary follicles are lost. And my understanding is here that you're getting this kind of assembly line process. There's a little bit of development happening in both ovaries. But between the two ovaries, you have one winner to the race. And this is our Graafian follicle. And when we get the Graafian follicle, so let's highlight it. When we get the Graafian follicle, we're going to see the release of both estrogen and inhibin. And I'm going to take a red pen and I'm going to draw a line from the inhibin in red up to my follicle stimulating hormone. And to represent that one of the jobs of the inhibin is going to be to shut off the production of follicle stimulating hormone. And so this is why we get one winner to the race. Whoever crosses the finish line, whoever becomes that Graafian follicle, is the follicle that makes inhibin, and this is a negative feedback mechanism shutting off FSH, setting off, halting these other follicles, no matter where they are in that particular development. When we get that release of estrogen, so I'm going to sort of put that in a box. The estrogen is going to talk again to the adenohypophysis. And I say again, I mean, we haven't really seen this large production of estrogen yet in the cycle, but we've talked to the adenohypophysis before. And what we're going to see is the adenohypophysis is going to now release LH. And truly what we're seeing is that during the cycle, we're getting both FSH and LH released as a result of the gonadotropin releasing hormone. But we'll really see once we get this estrogen, we get like a spike in LH, okay? And so when we get this like LH spike, it's going to trigger ovulation. So the LH spike is going to trigger ovulation. With ovulation, remember, you're releasing a secondary oocyte frozen in metaphase 2. It's actually rupturing through the side of the ovary. You have those little fimbriae extensions of the uterine tube helping to sweep that secondary oocyte into the uterine tube. And potentially, there are some sperm waiting in that tube ready to fertilize that secondary oocyte. And when those sperm cells penetrate, fertilize secondary oocyte, we get completion of meiosis 2, we get our ovum. When the nuclei form, or fuse, I should say, we get our zygote, which is our fertilized egg. Going back to our diagram, when we get this spike in LH and we get our ovulation, what we're going to see happening is our tertiary, or I'm going to actually call it my Graafian follicle. So Graafian follicle is what I'm using as my term to signify the winner of this ovarian cycle. At the moment of ovulation, the Graafian follicle becomes called this other structure, which is the corpus luteum. And luteum here is a term that means white. So corpus luteum just literally translates to white body. So it actually appears white in dissection in the ovary. So when the Graafian follicle ruptures and the secondary oocyte is released, that follicle shifts and now becomes called the corpus luteum. So I'm gonna say like at ovulation here, just to be clear. The next thing that we see happening, and let me go ahead and highlight the corpus luteum because this is an important structure. The corpus luteum now begins secreting progesterone, and it continues releasing estrogen. But that progesterone is going to become pretty significant. So I'm going to kind of highlight that in a sort of box. Now this corpus luteum continues to release progesterone and estrogen for approximately 12 days. And if you don't get implantation of a developing embryo, the corpus luteum converts to what's called the corpus albicans. And I actually misspoke earlier. So go back to your notes. Corpus luteum is the yellow body. Corpus luteum is the yellow body. Corpus albicans is the white body. And so what we're seeing is it's essentially a piece of scar tissue. It's a little remnant of this old corpus luteum. The corpus albicans is just this little like white scar sort of placed on the ovary, signifying that ovulation occurred. And the corpus albicans stops producing any kind of hormone. And so now that we get this drop in progesterone, and drop in estrogen, we go back to that hypothalamus releasing the gonadotropin releasing hormone, initiating that cycle to go again. If we go back and add some timing, so we'll see this whole process of getting our FSH release and the development at our follicles. We'll see this sort of time frame is approximately like 14 days. And I'm missing like a few, oh my goodness, almost had a big old sneeze, but I think we're safe. I'm missing a couple of days because 14 and 12 doesn't equal 28. So we have, you know, probably, I don't have a timing here, but we have probably, I'm just gonna write like a few days up here where we're getting that release of the, just thinking about it like here. I'm just gonna call it like a few days. So a few days where we're getting that drop in the progesterone and estrogen, where we're getting the hypothalamus sort of back online, releasing gonadotropin releasing hormone, and then the buildup of the FSH. All right, y'all. This is our ovarian cycle. We are going to fill in the middle in the future with the uterine cycle. So we're going to want to revisit this diagram. I hope this helps clarify a little bit. I am going to go ahead and grab a different color highlighter. I'm going to go with this teal color to just grab those hormones. So here we have gonadotropin releasing hormone released from the hypothalamus. We get the release of our FSH from the adenohypophysis, which is triggering all of the follicle stimulation. Then we're getting the release of our estrogen and our inhibin coming from that winner of the race, the Graafian follicle. That really gives us that spike in LH, which is what leads to ovulation. At ovulation, not only are we releasing that secondary oocyte and allowing it to move into the uterus, hopefully, ultimately, but we also get the formation in the ovary of the corpus luteum, which is going to be this important releaser of both estrogen and progesterone. Progesterone being like the head honcho, maintaining this kind of like, let me say, halting any more activity in the ovarian cycle. And it's not until the corpus luteum becomes the corpus albicans that we really get this massive decline in our hormone production, which initiates the process to go again. All right, y'all. I think up next, we're looking at the uterus and we're going to add some detail to the uterine cycle. So stay tuned. And as always, take care of yourselves and each other.